What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another retro Yu-Gi-Oh video, back with another Wheel Wednesday. If you're not familiar with this series of videos, basically what I do is I spin a wheel featuring most of the retro formats in Yu-Gi-Oh's history, excluding some of the really popular ones like Goat and Edison, and also some of the Link formats, which just take a little bit more time to learn and master than I have for these videos. And I spin the wheel, and whatever format pops up, I play a game in that format, and we see how it goes. So let's spin the wheel without further ado, see which format we get, and see what we're playing today. Dad Return. Okay, that's actually kind of funny because that'll be the next format that I cover after Perfect Circle, but I'm happy to do it. So let's dive into some games with Dad Return. So Dad Return format is the next format that I'm covering on the channel after Perfect Circle. It's held in April 2008 at SJC in Minneapolis, and it includes the release of Phantom Darkness, which adds a lot of crazy cards to the card pool here. If we go down to the Forbidden and Limited list here, we can see some of the major changes from Perfect Circle format. Call of the Haunted is now banned, along with Breaker and Magician of Faith. Kind of weird, but okay. Rise is now limited, so Perfect Circle Monarch is hit a lot. Monster Reborn is back for some unknown reason. You've got ARA limited as well, along with Knock. Trio also limited to hit the power of burn. We've got Necrophase semi-limited along with Lightning Dark Dragon and Sidra, along with Foolish Burial, Mage Power, and Magical Stone Excavation. And the gadgets are no longer restricted, and Jinzo as well. Reckless Greed also not on the list. Creature Swap and Prince Magician as well not on the list. But what this ban list might not tell you is that Phantom Darkness introduced a lot of crazy cards into the format, namely Dark Arm Dragon, as you can see as the format symbol here. So the deck that we're going to be playing today is this Dad Return list, built and piloted by Jazz, and it actually won the Drama Llama Classic number 4, which was the last tournament held in this format in April of 2023. And this deck is just insane. You got triple Dad to play around with. If you've never seen Dad before, it is a house. You'll see it in the games that I've got for you today. But you can set this up by getting 3 darks exactly in the graveyard, and you can do that through a variety of means, namely like Dark Grepher, to send a dark from hand and then send a dark from deck. And you've got a ton of graveyard modulation as well with things like Malicious, and it's just a wild, wild deck. And you can also fuel your return plays with stuff like Allure of Darkness to draw 2 and then banish a dark monster that you can then bring back with something like Dimension Fusion or return from a different dimension. So this deck looks very, very slick. I'm not going to go through the card by card in too much detail here. Just know that it is crazy, crazy strong if you can pull it off, but it is a bit of a combo deck. You do have to figure out the lines sometimes, and so it's good that I'm getting practice with it now. And I did actually get some pretty cool replays against Jim Bob here, so let's dive into those games here. Jim Bob's a freaking guest on the channel, always a pleasure to have them on, and we're going to be diving into these games. Starting off going first, and I actually don't know if it's good to go first or second. I assume it's good to go first because then you can set up your own plays, and you're not always going to combo off and get Dad online when you go second. So I feel like it's just better to go first in this case. We go for a Rhoda for a Stratos to search out a Disc Commander to hand here. I feel like this is generally best. I never really want to search Mali with this deck. It's something that I've sort of come to the conclusion of just playing these games because, like, if you search out Mali, it's a lot worse with, like, Dark Grepher. You want to just send Mali to grave off Grepher, I think, if you can. But we're just going to do that. Grab the Disc Commander, great hero to have in hand, and they're just going to set one, pass back to us. And now we can actually make some stuff happen. We drew Dark Grepher, but even if we didn't draw it, we did have Reinforcing the Army to potentially make something happen with it. But this can allow us to set up 3 darks pretty easily here. We're going to add another Dark Grepher because I'm pretty sure that's the only target left in my deck now. And so I don't want to give them the information that, like, I have another Dark Grepher in the picture here, but I think this will just be the end of the game. We special summon out the Grepher by pitching that Dasher. Then we send a Disc Commander to grave and also send another dark from our deck to the graveyard. We send a Democ because I got Reborn to bring it back if I so wish. So I'm now going to go for a Dark Arm Dragon here coming down. I just checked to make sure they don't have DD Crow on the summon of the 3rd dark, but even if they do, I think we do have ways around this because we could just Reborn like the Disc Commander to draw 2 and then do stuff with that. So we had a couple different options there, but we're going to go for the Dad. We're going to Reborn that Democ to get back the Reborn because why not? We're going to banish the Dasher to pop the set, and yeah, it's going to be the end of the game. That was well over lethal there, and we had a ton of ways to extend even further. So yeah, I mean, that's what the deck can do when it really pops off, just getting up a combo like that very, very quickly. But this game, things don't go quite as well for us. Our opponent will Allure of Darkness, draw 2, banish 1. You're going to banish a Gravekeeper's Guard, so definitely not a standard sort of Dad Return list, a bit more slow-paced, I think, than a normal one. But they do have Dust Shoot here, so Dust Shoot is going to be a bit problematic for us. They're going to send back that Dad. We kind of wanted that Dad around there. We can still go for an Allure of Darkness if we so wish, and we will indeed do that. And this is a bit of an interesting hand. We've got a couple different options to banish here. I could banish the Crow because given that, they're on Gravekeepers, they might not be on as much of a dad package as we are. So I could banish the Crow, but I do want the Crow around just in case. I could banish the Reaper just so that way, I don't really need to wall up here given that they, are clearly on a bit more of a defensive deck. And if they have Dad, they can pop the Reaper anyways. But ultimately, I decided to banish the Demok because I figure if I draw into my Dim Fuse or my return, I can bring that back and then get a spell back and do all that stuff. I figure it's more likely to have use banished than in hand. But I think in hindsight, it was probably best not to do that. I think maybe I could have banished the Crow since, it's unclear exactly what deck they're playing. And I did actually side in some other Crows since we're going second. I feel like that's a good going second card here. So I felt like I probably should have banished the Crow to keep the Demok in rotation, because what we could do here is if we draw a Greffer, we can pitch the Demok and then pitch something else and get stuff going. But opponent's going to go for Exile to pop the Reaper and then attack in with a DD Warrior Lady here, attacking in for 1,500. And then they're going to pass back to us. We draw a Premature Burial, which is not good into the Spirit Reaper here. And it would have been really good if we somehow draw a way to get Dark Magician of Chaos Engraved. So that's a bit of a downside for us. Hindsight's 2020, of course, but I do think there are more ways to utilize Demok in hand than banished in this deck. So I think I should have just played for the probability of that rather than just, doing the sort of defensive play here. But, I'm just going to go for Heavy Storm because now I get Greffer, so I can actually make some stuff kind of happen. Not really, but like I can summon out the Greffer at least and, pitch the Crow to send something else to grave, which I can then pre-mat back. So I'll send a Disc Commander here and try and pre-mat the Disc Commander back, draw 2, and get something happening there. That's going to be fine by them. We're going to go for pre-mat here on the Disc Commander, bring that back, draw 2. And we draw into another Greffer and a Reborn. Okay, that's not terrible because, then once the Disc Commander gets sent to grave, I can then use the Reborn in that. I'm going to attack into the Warrior Lady, so that way the Disc Commander is preserved here later. And hopefully this is enough. If I can draw into a Destiny Hero, I've got Destiny Draw to make some stuff happen there. So I feel like we're in an okay spot, even though we are pretty low in life. They are going to Heavy Storm, though, and then they're going to go for a Reborn targeting our Disc Commander. Why did they bring back Reborn? Why? It's such a powerful card. But they will be able to draw 2 cards off that Disc Commander, drawing 2 there, setting 1, going for Rise to spin back the one they set, and that will indeed be lethal damage here. So if I'd kept the Demok, with the Greffer, I could have done some stuff, brought back the Demok, and that actually plays around like something like a Reborn play from them because it would get banished when it leaves the field. Could also attack over the Sangan there, so it would have been a much better spot overall. And, again, hindsight's 2020, like, you can't really predict that as much, but I do think it would have been the better play, especially because if they know that we've got DD Crow, they're not really going to do as many graveyard plays. So I think it would have just been better just to get rid of the Crow because it wouldn't really be as valuable in the hand as the Demok would have been. But that's why I'm playing these games here. You're trying to learn from my mistakes in these games to get better at the format for when I cover it on the channel, which will be relatively soon, next month. But we've got a really good opener hand. I mean, we got Crush Card Virus plus Sangan. That is about as good as it gets. We're going to go for an Alert to see what else we get here, and we're going to banish the Greffer because we didn't draw another Dark Monster to banish instead. I think banishing the Greffer is also fine because we do have this return up, so we can bring it back if we want to. But we're going to set a Crush card and a return here. I feel pretty good about that. We could shotgun the Crush card if we really want to here. But a lot of these decks can draw a lot over the course of a turn, so I don't really want to go for the Crush card until we really, really have to. Our opponent's going to go for a D-draw here, pitching a Mally, drawing 2 more. And this is exactly why I don't want to go for, like, Crush card right away. Although you could argue that, like, I go for Crush card, maybe hit Dasher, and then they don't have D-draw online. But either way, like, I'm hitting stuff with the Crush card, hopefully, over the course of this turn. They're going to go for a Lure. They're going to banish a Reaper here. Then they're going to go for Heavy Storm. And now we will indeed go for Crush Card here, tributing the Sangan. I'm not going to return back the Greffer because I feel like that loses me the game more often than it helps me. But we get to see their hand. We see that they've got a Treeborn Frog, a Rhoda, a Destiny Draw, and a Trap Dust Shoot. So not ideal for us to hit because Rhoda can search out something else like, Stratos, and then that can search out a Destiny Hero to pitch off D-Draw and do stuff with that. So not the best for us, but I do think it was right to hold on to the Crush Card Virus there because we would have hit a lot more than we otherwise would have. But anyway, they're going to go for Rhoda here, searching out a Stratos for the Disc Commander to then pitch off the D-Draw to then draw 2 cards, get that set up in grave. And yeah, this is very, very unfortunate. They're going to banish a Mally here. Oh, wait, they drew a Dark Arm Dragon as well, so that got sent to grave off Crush Card. And they also drew DD Crow. So, but anyway, if they're going to banish a Mally to bring out another Mally, that is very scary because it might mean that they've got a Crush Card Virus of their own. Actually, no, we know that they don't have Crush Card because, yeah, we saw the hand. But either way, this is still kind of rough for us here. They're going to set one, and it is the dust shoot, so they get to see our hand. We decided in Doom Caliber Knight as well, because I figured, like, if we're attacking into Gravekeeper's Spy or Guard or something like that, Doom Caliber can trade nicely with it. But I think Doom Cal is actually, like, pretty bad in this situation, and against this deck, like, a DD Crow can kill a Doom Cal. Treeborn Frog can kill a Doom Cal. Of course, I didn't see Treeborn Frog in their deck in Game 1 and 2, I don't think, but still, Doom Cal is, like, not really the best, so... I probably shouldn't have sided that in, but luckily they spin it back anyways because it can hit over the Stratos there. But yeah, I mean, I would have probably cleared the Stratos in some capacity, no matter what they spun back here. Card Trooper can clear the Stratos anyways, and if they spun back Trooper, I could have just summoned out Warrior Lady, attacked into Mally, sent that to Grave, and just had it on field, which kind of represents removal there. But I'm going to Reborn their Disc Commander. I know that gets around Trooper, so I can draw 2 off that. You see, we've got a Dark Arm Dragon now. Unfortunately, Sangyans are only Dark and Grave, but we could potentially mill more with a Trooper here. So I am just going to go for that Trooper, milling 3. And we do actually get 3 Darks exactly here, so that's very nice. It does force out the DD Crow as well, because, you know, they don't want us to drop Dad in case we drew it, and we didn't need draw it, so very good play on their part. But we can still attack over the Stratos here, get in for 100, and I'm not too worried about this because they are still under Crush Card for one more turn. We're going to send an MST, pass back to them. They drew into a Gravekeeper's Spy. Actually, that is very annoying for us here, but they're going to attack into the Trooper here. Hopefully, we can draw into another way to get a Dark Online, and we do draw into Reinforcing the Army, which won't quite get us a Dark Online, but we can go for Upstart to try and dig deeper into the deck to see if we can get that way to get the Dark Online. BrainCon will not quite do it. We can still go for Rhoda here, and we are going to grab the Stratos. Gruffer might be good just for later, just to try and pitch another Dark to get that Engrave. And also, it is another Dark, so if they do clear the Gruffer, then, you know, that's another Dark Engrave for us there. But I go for the Stratos because I figure Stratos can just search out a Dark from our deck anyways, and, you know, it should be fine. And this does turn on Gruffer a bit more if we draw it. So I figured fine going for Stratos here, thinning out the deck a little bit more, and setting up for a Dasher play next turn, because I'm not really sure if they have a good way to clear both our monsters on board here. So we're just going to attack in that Mally, pass back to them. And this is the last turn on Crush Card. They're just going to pass back to us here. And we draw into another Dad. Okay, that's not ideal for us, but we can do something here. We can summon out the Dasher here and then attack into the Spy. We know it's a Spy. And we chose to do this instead of going for someone like Warrior Lady here, because we know about BrainCon in hand, so we don't want them to bring out a Spy and then be able to BrainCon the Stratos next turn and kill us through that. So I figured this is a bit more resilient to that. It also gives us a Dark on field, so if they clear the Dark, then we get Dad online. We've got double Dad, so we would like to get 3 Darks exactly in Grave here. They're going to think about exactly what to do here. They're going to do a big think. And it does take them a bit to think about this, but they are 100 off lethal, which is why they thought so hard about it. They're going to go for BrainCon on the Stratos, tribute over both those for a DMOC, add back the BrainCon, it looks like. Yep, there's the BrainCon. So they are indeed going to go for this just to play around a BrainCon of our own, which is indeed a smart play in my opinion, because we do have a BrainCon in hand. The downside for them here is that we can get over the DMOC next turn with the Dasher, but ultimately I think it is fine because it drops us down to 100, so we are in a very, very scary spot. And they could potentially kill us in a myriad of different ways. So that's the tricky thing about this. We will tribute this DD Warrior Lady to get over the DMOC there. We've got a hand of pretty much all bricks, honestly. We can't use BrainCon anymore. They're not setting back row, so Heavy Storm's dead and MST's dead. D-Draw, we don't have a Destiny Hero in hand. So we just got to hope that this Dasher's enough. The Dasher does switch to defense to protect our life points at least, but if they can bring out a monster and beat over this thing, we might be in a really bad spot. We set the BrainCon just to try and bait out something or just, you know, bluff something as well. TT will not quite do it here. We'll just set the TT. Didn't get his jar. We want to set the TT before attacking in. We figured it was the Frog, so it doesn't really matter there that much. They're going to bring back the Frog. No point of TTing that now. They're going to tribute that for a Zaborg that we will TT. So the TT did come in clutch. We draw into another Dad. No! We got 3 of this guy in hand. Only 2 Darks in Grave. Early. Actually, we do have exactly 3 now. Okay, good. So actually, we do have 3 now. Now that the Dasher's gone. But, yeah, those were breaking up our hand before, but now that we got 3 Darks in Grave, bam. Triple Dad. Dad's come back, and he's returning the favor and just attacking in for 56 plus 28. So that is 8,400 points of damage. And yeah, I mean, that's what happened with Dad in the format. I mean, Dad returned very, very sacky format. This wasn't the only game we got in this format, though. So let's dive into that next one now. This was just a replay between us, a rematch between us, because we did have a fair amount of fun. Just jamming some dad return decks here. But the thing you have to know when going into this format is like, don't expect like the most, skill intensive chess like gameplay or something like that. It is a very sacky format. You are going to get sacked by 1-ofs all the time and occasionally by 3-ofs because dad is at 3 for some unknown reason. So it's a very, very fast paced format. Things get out of hand really quickly, but it is still fun to sort of play through and do stuff with. So I'm going to go for double upstart here, just try and draw into some more things here. We're just going to go for a trooper. No need to really go for the allure just yet. We can save that a bit and just do a bit more of a conservative play, attacking into their set here. Unfortunately, it is a spy, so they're able to bring out another spy, or a guard in this case, but I think that's ultimately fine. I'm not too concerned about this, and we're just going to go to end phase, pass back to our opponent here. They're going to bring out a pre-mat here, and that's going to be really bad for us because they bring back this Disc Commander to draw 2 more cards. Disc Commander's crack card. They're going to think about this a bit, and they're ultimately going to decide to go for a Reaper here, so they also get a hand rip out of us as well. So they're not looking too good for us. We take a fair amount of damage. We do get a draw, so that's nice, but they do get this hand rip here, and that could be disastrous for us. They rip out the Heavy Storm, which honestly, we would have liked to keep the Heavy Storm around a bit, but it really does depend on our draws here, because we could draw something good off Lure, Destiny Draw, etc. DMOC is not necessarily what we were looking for, but we can go for a Lure now with a bit more safety here, not having to worry about the dad being banished. This is a bit of a thinker, but we actually have a pretty neat line here that we can do. So we're actually going to banish the DMOC here, summon out the Sangan, and then we're actually going to crash the Sangan into the guard. You might wonder why we're doing this. Doesn't this leave us open to what our opponent might have? The reason we're doing this is we've got D-Draw here to pitch the Disc Commander and get exactly 3 darks engraved. So now we've got those 3 darks there, and we can go for a dad here to then pop some more of their field. So we're going to use Prio to banish the Disc Commander, pop their set, because I don't want them bring back the Disc Commander here. And we're going to pop a Dust Tornado. Honestly, not too upset about that. We're going to go for Upstart Goblin just to see what else we draw. We draw into Mind Crush, which is a bit interesting. We could potentially pass on Mind Crush TT and then Mind Crush and standby calling like BrainCon, because BrainCon is basically the main way they get out of this situation. They BrainCon our dad. That's really, really bad for us. So we don't want that to happen. But what are the odds they've got the 1-of, right? I still want to set the Minecon and the TT just in case they've got like an MST or something here. But, what are the odds they've got the BrainCon? I'm going to hold the Mind Crush. Not going to play into, like, what if they've got the 1-off that beats us, right? Oh, no. Okay, they did have the 1-off that beats us. That is very unfortunate. So they are able to go for BrainCon, go for Dad as well, banish the 1 dark they've got engraved. That's the saving grace of this play. They only can pop 1 of our back rows. So if they miss the TT, we're in not a bad spot. They're going to try and pop 1 of our back rows. They're going to pop the Mind Crush. And I think, actually, at this point, I could potentially hold the Mind Crush. But I think if they've got a Monarch in hand, we are kind of cooked. So what I want to do here is I actually want to go for Mind Crush and target Zaborg, because I would like to, get the Monarch out of hand. And I do feel like if they do... if they summon something else, we can TT, but if they don't summon anything else, then we still survive this turn and we get Dad back at the end. So I think it's ultimately fine. But I feel like part of why they went for this play is because they've got a Monarch in hand. I could have called Ryza. Ryza actually might have been the better call because Zaborg can't really pop anything on board right now. So Ryza might be a little bit more annoying for me. But I feel like Zaborg is more common than Ryza because Ryza is limited. So I feel like this was the better Monarch to call there. They go for a Fearmonger here, trying to get lethal damage, because this actually will be lethal damage. 15 plus 18 plus 28 is only 46, but plus 1,000 brings it up to 56. So we do indeed have to TT this board, even though it does mean we lose the Dad. And now we've actually sort of like stabilized a bit. Our opponent has 2 cards, we've got 2 cards, but we're playing a deck that, unlike Monarch, is a bit more resilient in this sort of situation. We go for Allure, draw 2, and that is a pretty good draw. We're going to banish the Dasher there, go for Dim Fuse to bring back the DMOC, the Dasher, and the Disc Commander in defense mode here. And I actually mess up at this point. I go for the DMOC and I go for Heavy Storm. I think what I should have done here is gone for Premat instead, because Premat shuts down the back row while also giving us the body. So I feel like we should have done that, but I don't do it. I think that's a bit of a misplay here, and I could get punished later by other traps. So they've got a Phoenix Wind Blast, and they're going to spin our Dark Minute of Chaos, which will get banished here. But imagine if I had gone for Premat instead here. For instance, I go for Premat on Jinzo. They could potentially Phoenix Wind Blast the Premat, but then I get that back next turn, and they're still in a bad spot. They could, Phoenix Wind Blast the DMOC to just get out of the picture before the Jinzo comes up. But then I'm get Jinzo on field. Jinzo is very good. So I feel like this definitely was a misplay on my part. But luckily, I don't think it matters too much in the end here. I summon out a Greffer for more damage, attack over the guard, and then attack directly for 17 here. And let's see what they do. They're down to one card. There are some cards that do it for them there, but it looked like that was not one of them. So I'm having to read that that's probably a Monarch, given that they are on a Monarch deck. So I'm just going to summon out this Reaper, get rid of that Monarch in case they're on like side rare or something like that. So I feel like this should be good. Unfortunately, it is one of 2 Mallies, and that is going to be a bit annoying for me because now they can, if they draw a Monarch, bring out that Monarch and, you know, sort of hurt us a bit here. Now, the good thing about this is that if they draw into a Monarch, bring that out, we can brain con it and then go for a lethal push next turn. So I don't think it's actually the worst for us here that, you know, the Mally's engraved, but they are indeed going to go for the Mally here. Bring that out, and then they're going to set one pass back to us. We tried to trap Dust Shoot, which is not really the best right now, but I guess we can set it as a bluff. We're going to attack into the set. Leave the Reaper in attack mode for now, even though we're not really intending on attacking him with it, because if it's something like a Sangan, for instance, we want to rip the card out of hand that they search. But it looks like a Treeborn Frog. So we're just going to switch that to defense. No need to play into damage when, you know, it doesn't really increase our clock at all. The Dasher should be in defense mode here, by the way, but it won't end up mattering here because they do have Allure. You technically do have to sort of finish resolving the effect, I believe, before you concede. So, you know, we would know these 2 cards, and unfortunately they have to pitch both of them. But yeah, we do indeed win that game either way there. So we're going to go into the game. Is this game 2 or 3? It's game 2. So we're going into this one here. And this is a pretty good hand overall. We got DD Crow to shut off their graveyard shenanigans. We've got Allure of Darkness to draw deeper, Upstart Goblin to draw deeper. So we got a lot of different stuff here. Unfortunately, they've got Dust Shoot yet again, so they're able to spin back our DD Crow. Dust Shoot is limited to 1. It's just popped up a variety of times in these games. But we're going to go for Upstart, draw 1, and then we're going to go for Allure, draw 2, and then banish 1. Since they sent back the Crow, we want to keep that Crow in hand to stop their graveyard shenanigans. So we're actually going to banish the Demok here. We've got Dasher to pitch off of a Greffer if we draw into a Greffer, or we go into it off of Reinforcing the Army. But I feel like we might want to just go for Stratos off of Rhoda, or we could actually go for DD Warrior Lady off of Rhoda. And it looks like we are indeed going to go for Warrior Lady here. I figure this matches up into a lot of what they might have set here. I just want to go for it. And if it's like a Spy, we can still banish the 1 copy of Spy if we so wish. And I think we will indeed do that. We're going to take the 5 and then banish there. This fuels our return plays a bit more. And also, you know, it makes our TT a little bit better here. Unfortunately, they do have MST for our TT to stop that. So that's going to be a bit annoying for us here. They're going to switch the Spy to attack in for 12. And that's ultimately fine. They're going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw into a return, so the return is now live. So we're going to set this Disc Commander, set the return, pass back to them. They are going to think about this a bit and just attack into our set monster here. So that will indeed go through. They're then going to tribute for a Ryza. Do we use the return now? I don't think we necessarily do because the Demok is not really going to be the best for us here, but it is kind of awkward because we are going to be taking a lot of damage from this. But I do think that we have to just let this go through because we're not getting any value off that return, basically. I mean, we are getting some value because we get more draws here, but like for half our life points, is that worth it? I don't necessarily know. So I'm just going to set the return pass back to my opponent here. And they're going to attack in for 24. I will take that because I feel like return on my own turn is a bit better here than return on their turn for defensive purposes. We're going to go for an Allure, draw 2, and we draw into Mally Jinzo. I feel like Jinzo might be the pick. We could also have gone... Now, the reason I go for Jinzo is because, like, with this, we can basically prevent, like, a TT from blowing us out here. But the awkward thing is that the Jinzo will be banished at the end of the turn, so it's sort of like a trade-off here. But now we can go for Demok here, trying to grab the Rhoda to get stuff happening there, because we can go for Rhoda, grab a Greffer, pitch a monster from our hand, like the Mally, and get that Greffer out. And I think we might actually have lethal damage if we do that sort of play. Let me think. So that's 17 plus 28, so that's 45, plus 29, or 24, so that's 69, plus Warrior Lady. Well, actually, we contribute over Warrior Lady for Dasher. So yeah, we can actually have lethal damage here, I believe, because that's 10,000. No, it won't quite be lethal through Ryza, but like it'll be relatively close. Yeah, I don't think it's quite lethal through Ryza. Actually, what it might be lethal because, yes, I think it actually is lethal because what we do is we search out Greffer, pitch the Mally, special the Greffer, banish the Mally for a Mally, tribute over the Mally for a Dasher, tribute the Greffer, and then we crash the DD Warrior Lady into the Ryza and attack in for 31 plus 29 plus 24. Which I do believe is... Oh, that's still not quite lethal. It's 8,300. So actually, we don't have lethal here, no matter how we slice it, which is kind of unfortunate, but That's the way it goes sometimes. Unfortunately, we won't even get a chance to deal a ton of damage because they do need to have the DD Crow for the Rhoda. I do think that the play that we had would have been better anyways because, like, it gets them out of brain con range, which is one of the ways we die. So, I feel like it might have been better to do that, but unfortunately, we don't even have the option to because of the Crow. And we will distribute over the Warrior Lady for a Dasher here. We lose to brain con, but, like, if they got brain con, we're probably cooked either way here because we can't really get aggressive enough in one turn to actually kill them here. The alternative to this would have been just tribute setting over the Warrior Lady after attacking in for then malicious. That is also an option, but I feel like that's the much weaker option. And, if they got brain con, they got brain con, right? We're kind of cooked no matter what if they've got that. But hopefully this is enough. Oh, nope, there's the brain con. Okay, they did have the brain con, so, yeah. I mean, if I played around brain con, maybe we could have survived a bit longer. Maybe it would have been smarter to do, but this is a very, very sacky format, so I'm like, well, is it really going to matter if we play around brain con or not? I don't quite know. Maybe it would have. The comments can let me know what they think down in the comments below. But anyways, we're going to start off with a pretty great hand. We get Grepher to pitch Demock to then pre-map back to get a spell. I mean, this thing is just insanely good. We've also got Reaper as a defensive card here. They're going to set 2, pass back to us. We've got Heavy for that, so that's also great for us here. And we're going to go for that Heavy. Unfortunately, they do have Crush Card Virus, so that will be a bit rough for us. And they have also got Being from Blast to spin back the Reaper here. That's going to be a bit annoying. Yeah, it's going to be a bit rough. But we do have pre-mat for the Demock. So if we can draw into some things to get that going, then that could be pretty good. And I do make a mistake. I'm focusing on just drawing into things to then turn on the pre-mat, to then turn on my stuff, right? So I'm like, okay, if I go Allure, I know I've got a Dark. I know that Reaper is popping up, so I can just banish that and then pop off even further through the other cards I draw off that. But I'm only drawing one other card off that, so I don't really think I should gamble my future on that in hindsight. Unfortunately, I do gamble it, and I go into Reaper MST. So we are able to banish the Reaper and not discard our hand, but MST is not quite the best card here to actually get off that. I think it would have been much better just to, sort of let that be the end of this turn, draw into the Reaper, set the Reaper, and force them to out it in the coming turns. But as is, I just go for that. And I will think about this a bit and ultimately decide to set the MST here. This could backfire for us if they go like Mally into Ryza. Exactly. But if they go Mally into Ryza, I can then get over the Ryza with the pre-mat. So I'm not too concerned about that. Because then I can also MST their back row if they've got some as well. So I'm not too concerned about this. I think it is a fine play overall. And we'll see if it actually pays off for us more here. We draw into DD Crow. Now actually could be a good time to go for pre-mat, get back Demock, and then go for Allure to draw deeper into the deck. That might be a good option here. But under Crush Card, it's a bit less good. And that's something I also should have considered last turn for, like, what I'd extend into off of Crush Card. So yeah, I should have not gone for Allure, and I think that actually does come back to bite us here. But we draw into a Crush Card of our own, so actually, maybe we're back in it. That might actually be pretty good. That's also the last turn on their CCV. So we can set this Crow, set the Crush Card Virus, pass back to them. So now we can Crush Card them, so that's pretty nice. They're going to go for a Mally Banish there, and they're going to flip this Spy, so they're going to get to bring out another Spy here. And then they're going to attack in over our Crow, but we are going to Crush Card Virus. Unfortunately, the board is not hit, but we do hit a Dad there, which is nice. And we also get to see that they've got a BrainCon, Pre-Mat, and DD Crow. That is actually really bad for us. That is really bad for us. Crow stops the Demock summon off the pre-mat, which would have been really good. BrainCon allows them to get even more aggressive in coming turns. So, yeah, they're not looking good here. But they are able to attack in directly for 3,200 points of damage, which is a lot of life points here. And, yeah, even if we had the Reaper, they would have actually had an out to that with the BrainCon. So that is even worse. So even if we had done the right play earlier, I think we were kind of cooked with that. I mean, of course, if we had drawn Crush Card at a certain point, right, and they hadn't BrainCon to the Reaper yet, then we actually would have been in a really good spot, because if they tried to BrainCon the Reaper, then we Crush Card it and pop everything there. But it really depends on, I guess, when they drew the BrainCon, whether they drew it last turn or the turn before. But yeah, it's going to be very rough. We can't really do too much here. If we summon out Sangan, we can attack over Mally, and we're not dead, potentially, because they're under Crush Card. So if they draw a monster 1,500 or more attack, it's popped. And if they BrainCon the Sangan, that is 3,400 points of damage, so we're still alive. So if they're playing Armageddon Knight, we're cooked, which is out in this format. But, I think there is a reasonable sort of reason for actually going for this play. If we set the Sangan, they could just attack over with Mally potentially, although they wouldn't know what it was, so maybe they'd take a more conservative approach there. But I feel like either way, we should be fine here. We got MST for the pre-map that they've got, so I think this should ultimately be okay, and hopefully we can survive through this. Unfortunately, they draw into Rhoda. Yep, Rhoda is one of the ways that they can kill us through this board, so they're going to go for the Rhoda there, search out the Stratos, and ultimately, even when we had set the Sangan, we would have been cooked here because what they would have done is just roted out Stratos, summoned out Stratos, popped our MST because they would have had a hero on board. And actually, they didn't have really anything good to pre-map back, but they still would have been in a really, really good spot. So I guess we wouldn't be dead there. So that is fair, but we would have been down really bad, and things would not have been getting better for us here. But yeah, pre-map won't even need to come up because BrainCon will actually close out the game for us here. And that'll be the end of the game. So, very, very good games, though. Very fun games. I mean, I'm already looking forward to this format. I just like formats that are so fast-paced and crazy. Even if they're not, like, the most, like, back and forth, like, skill-intensive, like, down-to-the-wire intense games, they can be intense in their own ways. I think a lot of these games were intense, and it really came down to some crazy plays to actually stay alive in them and pull out victories here. And, again, there is still skill involved in these formats. Like, if I had not gone for the alert earlier in this game, who knows how this game would have turned out. Maybe things would have turned out better. Maybe they would have had to use up the BrainCon already. Maybe we would have gotten more value off of our Crush Card virus. Who knows? So, you never know what's going to happen here in these games, but that's part of what makes them so exciting. And I'm really looking forward to Dad Return. But before that, we've got to finish up our coverage of Perfect Circle, which I'm looking forward to. It should be a lot of fun covering the rest of that format. I got a lot more Perfect Circle videos on the way, as well as a ton of other retro formats down the pipeline. So stay tuned for that. If you like retro Yu-Gi-Oh content, subscribe, like, do all that stuff. Join the YGO from Zero Discord server to play in our events that we hold every month and week. And I hope you enjoyed as always. As always, big shout out to my patrons: Rinchman, Porkchop, Brent Knocker, Tyler Compton, GeoMyFest, Dumptruck, Scout Zero, and Damon Hess. It means a lot that you all support this way and encourage me to make more videos like this one in the future. I hope you all enjoyed as always. Until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero. I'm signing off.